then I will definitely give you a 0, right? Of course, using Wikipedia is convenient, right? It provides no way to track the source of information it contains, making accuracy easy at its best. You may find that you still must visit traditional libraries to verify, right? Here, they're saying you need to always keep in mind that action data, according to what the newsletter PR reporter, is what is needed by public relations writers, including data that we're talking of action data, very important, including data that answers questions essential to planning projects, programs, and campaigns. That is action data. Here we are talking of the most desirable research methods focused on the latent readiness of audience to behave in a certain way, and of course on how your audience will get that kind of information, and how, of course, they are going to use it, and how they arrive at that particular decision. But of course, you also need data that tests, if possible, and deflates assumptions. Data that tests, if possible, not only tests, but deflates assumptions. And here, this book says you need to use conventional wisdom. What's the meaning of that? This conventional wisdom often leads senior management to decisions however, conventional as it is, it could be right or it could be wrong. So that's why you need data that can not only test, but if possible, also deflate the assumption. And thirdly, you need data that produce what is called baseline data that permits accurate evaluation. Here, when you talk of the baseline, the good baseline help us to know how far we have moved, if at all, whether the process is working, and whether behavioral change goals are met. Baseline, basically, we are talking of the basics. What are the issues on the ground? So in short, research is a key element in professional success. If you need to succeed professionally, you need to research. Thank you. It's room 2 here. Because you are doing research in order to gather information which you want to share, yes, with the public, right? So, you need to have a checklist before you start writing. And this is called a pre-writing checklist. You need to have all that information before you start writing your particular, be it an article, be it a press statement, whatever you want to do it. You need to have a checklist and confirm that are all these things ready and available. That's when you can start writing. So the very first thing, right, is to gather facts of the matter and get them right. What is it that you want to communicate? Just give me an example. Maybe the upcoming river, right? Or the upcoming graduation, right? So you gather facts about the graduation. How many students? In which faculty? When is the graduation? Who shall be the guest of honor? And so on and so forth. How many students in journalism? What about in social? How many ladies? How many boys? Who has scored the highest? How many distinctions? So you gather all those facts. But you must get them right. Okay? Secondly, you gather authoritative opinion and interpretation of the matter. As I said, whatever you do as a PR person, you are doing it on behalf of the institution. The institution is headed by, for example, at a university like this one, could be the vice chancellor or the chancellor or the president or the principal, right? If the highest head of this institution is the principal, if you are the PR person for this institution, then whatever you are doing it on behalf of the principal. And therefore, you need to gather authoritative opinion and interpretation of that matter by, yes. Thirdly, you evaluate facts and opinion for their pertinence. Pertinence is where you have all that information. Now, depending on your targeted public, there could be some information that might not be pertinent to that particular public. So here the third thing is to evaluate those facts and opinions so that you may discard those that may not directly be related to the matter. Alright? Fourthly, you synthesize the remaining facts and opinion into a cohesive body of information. Synthesize. You synthesize the remaining facts and opinion into a cohesive body of information. For example, you decide, okay, I've got all this information. Which one should come first? Which one should be the climax? Which one should be at the end? In that order of importance. That's the coherency we are talking about. Then finally, perhaps the fifth one, you now organize the information for writing. All these four facts you have not started writing. It's just to prepare yourself, and it's part of the research we are talking about. But these are pre-writing checklists to guide you so that by the end of it all, you have a complete, factual, honest, and whatever virtues the article shall have. Okay? 6. You develop a writing outline that moves logically from one point to the next. This is very important. Developing a writing outline. Some But this one now is kind of the actual technical kind of thing, where you have now, you want the article to be logical, right? It should make sense, because you can assemble factual information, but not make sense. Depending on how you outline the information, that's when it will make sense. Right? 7, you write. After you write, you edit, and so on and so forth. So, basically, when we talk of researching here, it needs careful planning. You need to plan. Here they are saying plans are generally successful in direct proportion to the quality of the information on which they are built. Plans are generally successful in direct proportion to the quality of the information. It becomes easier for you to plan if you have got quality information. Right? That again, I don't know.
You're right. No, did you hear it?
When you're like that?
Really?
Yeah. It's 3 years.
Really?
I've got 1, 2 more.
No, did you hear it?
Yeah.
No, did you hear it?
Yes.
Yes.
That's submission. Now I've done mountain analysis, but I still have a few assignments.
Nothing in second. I said, what time do you for my? What's the last name? Titan. 10 o'clock. How much time do?
Okay.
Otherwise, it's me. There's motion. I can't get out of it.
And brown, my favorite.
The motion.
Pretty good. All right, we come out from Bukarunga, then Mahotela, and they are doing now we go. Okay. After this one, I'm missing Mandalorian again. Yeah.
Are you?
Photojournalism. He and that's for me, especially McLaren, he's always here. The first student that finds. Okay, so planning usually begins with what is known as situation analysis. Situation analysis, you just want to analyze the general situation, isn't it? And this is where you want to seek answers for a number of questions. You want to evaluate the environment, the situation of whatever topic you want to write about. You analyze the situation. You ask yourself questions. For example, what are the significant trends? What is it that is going on these days? what is trending. So you want to establish what is it. That is part of the situation analysis. Getting questions like, what is the overall economic situation? Here you are trying not to write something or say something out of context. You have said that, no, that is out of context. For example, somebody says, things in Malawi are very expensive, right? Then somebody says, no, things all over the world are expensive. Right? That is true, isn't it? But situation analysis would lead you to get the real picture. Right? For example, in Malawi, things are expensive. Is it because things are expensive or people don't have money? Because there's a difference. Elsewhere, what they do is, if there's an inflation, for example, right? Inflation is where the value of the currency has gone down. When the value has gone down, then the prices adjust. Actually, it's not the prices that adjust. It's the loss of value. The price is the same. For example, this phone could be, let's say for argument's sake, $100. That's the value, isn't it? If Malawi to a dollar is 1,000, what it means is this phone could be worth 100,000, isn't it? But if the water tumbles to 1.5, right? What it means is I'm now going to buy this phone at 150,000, isn't it? So is this phone expensive? No. It has maintained the same value, isn't it? But I will struggle to buy it because my money has been devalued. Right? Now the bottom line is, I'm now saying to buy this phone because it was at 100,000, it's now at 150. But in true sense, this change, the value has not changed on this phone. It is the value of the project. Because this phone is still at $100. Are you following the argument? But I would say things are expensive. Is that true? No. Things have got the same value, but I don't have the money. My money has been. So when people are arguing, they should contextualize, and that is part of situation analysis. Because elsewhere, they will say, okay, what I have been 50%. Then immediately, the salaries will be increased with 50%. Yes. Would you complain? If my salary is 500 a watch, a loaf of bread is 500 a watch, I'm able to buy a loaf of bread. Now a loaf of bread goes to 1,000, and I still get 500 a watch. I'm not going to afford that. But if they add on my salary another 500 a watch, so I'll be able to still buy what? The bread. Would I complain that the bread is expensive? No. Situation analysis. So you ask questions like, what are the political considerations for the action you are contemplating? You look at the dynamics of politics. Right? How is our organization perceived by the target public? If we do this, how are they going to react? Right? These and other questions are unique to the situation and must be raised and answered. So you ask all those questions so that you create that, okay, this is the situation. Now, if this is the situation, how should I craft my message? So, when you talk of research in PR, your so-called planning must begin with what is known as situation analysis. Earlier on, I talked about the basic types of research. Usually, the very basic ones, and I'm sure I should have learned these things in research methods. They are categorized in two. One is quantitative, the other one is qualitative. You have heard about this. Do you know the difference?
Yeah.
What is the difference?
The other one, the quantitative, it's about the statistics. Or the qualitative, the discussion of the decision.
Exactly. So one deals with numbers. The quantitative. It's about numbers. Right? While the qualitative is mostly opinion. That's why in qualitative you include interviews, focus group interviews, case studies, pilot studies, and so on and so forth. Because you are trying to get views from the people. Right? So let's not waste time on that one because you know exactly what qualitative and quantitative is. Planning for research. You may not be directly involved in public relations planning, especially early in your career as you're just beginning, but you still need to know a good bit about research because you use that information through research. And that information is categorized into 6 broad categories, namely policy and purpose, background material, the public, message, media, and finally program evaluation. Then all those 6 have been explained in details where you can read on your own. My interest now is here they're talking of sources for PR writers and researchers. These 2 should be easier if you have done research methods. Usually, for every researcher, including you as a PR researcher, you have two basic sources of information, and these are paper and people. However, the so-called paper does not always mean books, right? In a broader context, the so-called paper, we're talking of books. But in the modern context, even the internet sites are considered as paper because you have got e-books these days, right?
Yeah.
So when you talk of paper and people, paper go beyond the actual paper. It can also mean the internet. The people are the people, right? The important point to remember is that sources are either secondary and usually secondary is the paper. Then you have got primary, which is the people. Why is that so?
Because people can be an important source as compared to.
Yes, it is important because it is coming directly from them, isn't it? While in books, you want information about you, I'm going to find it. If I want information about you, right? If I read your information about you in the book, that is secondary source. Because it's the second. You become first if I talk to you directly. You become the primary source, the first source. So somebody talk about issues in the book. But if I want issues direct, that become primary. In other words, primary is first, secondary is second. So when I'm talking to people, they become primary source because they are the first people to tell me. While the books, it is somebody talking about something that becomes secondary. Right? Here basically they're talking of, they have started with secondary source of research. Every public relation writer should have at least a working library in the office that contains the dictionaries, the thesaurus, appropriate reference volumes, the biographies, and so on and so forth. You see that all these are books and therefore secondary. They have made use of the library is secondary. Reference works, bibliographies, periodicals, right? All these public records, okay? Government records. Public access to information. We have a bill that provides for the public to get information. That is secondary. What about primary? When you must research a primary source, generally you have two ways of gathering information from people. One is the interview, and the other is the questionnaire. Isn't it? So, as you're doing your research, you need to be specific and explain exactly how you manage to source information from your primary source, either interview or questionnaire from people. And this is primary, right? If it is qualitative or quantitative, depending on how you are talking, right? Usually this becomes qualitative. When people are expressing their opinions, you are discussing you know. But we are also saying that you can talk to people through interviews, you can provide questionnaires, and here they're talking about the checklist for interviews, which I think you must have done in one of the courses, where you need to research your subject before the interview, isn't it? You cannot just start asking people questions when you know little about them. You remember the interview on BBC of the head of state? You can't remember it. You did not even see it. It was interesting because the interviewer had to research and have facts. Right? You need to know something about the person you are interviewing. That interviewer had researched so well that he knew our president so well. And that's what you too is supposed to know. You need to know the people you are interviewing. Prepare a list of questions in advance. You don't just have to wake up and say, you'll be asking from the head. Asking, who is this guy on Times? Brian Band. He usually has a list of questions. He may not show you, but he has a list of questions. By the end of his interview, be it exclusive or whatever program, he should have finished all the questions. You inform the interview in advance of the kind of question you'll be asking. You are not telling the interviewee, you are not giving the interview the question, but you just provide the broader kind of, okay, I'll ask on your personal life. I was watching this lady, Madam, what's her name? This lady who is popular with me, Madam Kashmir. Yes. So the interviewer had to inform them that will ask you about your businesses, your court cases, your personal life, your marriage. I hear she's married, there's a Kingston. So you tell them that these are the areas that are for you. Ask for quick explanation if you don't understand something. That's obvious. You ask somebody you don't understand, you need to ask for explanation. Ask specific questions. Vague question, elicit vague answers. That's obvious. Ask one question at a time. You ask the question, the question has not been answered. You ask another question. That doesn't make sense. You ask them, you let them answer, then you ask another question. Ask one question at a time. Okay, this one is already said. How do you maintain a good interview? Here they're saying that you need to present yourself as a warm and welcoming or responsive person to the interviewee. Right? Because once you can get that impression that you are a warm, responsive person, then the interviewee will respond warmly to you. And that goes a long way in convincing the respondent, right, that their interaction with you will be a pleasant one. And of course, personally satisfied. Secondly, you need to create a permissive atmosphere. Right? This is where your interviewee does not feel inhibited by your questions, but will offer candid responses. Because if your respondents see your interview as important, definitely they will tend to be more cooperative, right? And thirdly, you must be sure not to apply pressure of any kind, real or implied. Don't give pressure to the people you are asking questions. If you maintain a detached but permissive posture in the interview, respondents are more likely to open up. You want them to open up. Okay? So to achieve that, to achieve an environment where the respondents have opened up, they feel welcomed, they feel they want to help you, it is recommended that you follow a number of steps, one of which is, and it's very important and should come first, is to introduce yourself by name and explain your affiliation. Affiliation is where you are coming from. If it's an interview to do with the university, you need to show them your student registration card. Sometimes you'll be given letters from the university to allow you to access information. That's the kind of affiliation we are talking about. Okay? You also need to explain clearly what is it that you are doing. So you explain to whoever you want information from and say, look, I'm here, my name is so, I'm coming from the university. I want information on this. I want to use that information for the following purpose. Right? This is where you bring on board issues of confidentiality. You assure the people that the information I'm going to gather is only going to be used for the following and nothing else. Okay? Explain to the interview how he or she was chosen to be interviewed. Why did you choose them? Why did you go to village A and not village B? Okay? Adopt your behavior to the personality of the person being interviewed. So you need to be part of that person by adopting your behavior to their personality. You build rapport. Rapport is that kind of relationship, right? So other than interview, then you go to focus group. I think you know what focus group is, isn't it? In short, it's called FGI, Focus Group Interview. This is a grouping of people and not necessarily individuals. you must have learned types of sampling, isn't it? Random sampling, for example. Sample probability sampling.
We are not there yet.
You are not there yet. In short, probability sampling means that every person in your public should have an equal and non-statistical probability of being included in the sample. Premier Base, right? They use that kind of sampling, where you are sure that as you are gambling, you have got equal chance of winning or losing, just like many other millions of people. So what makes you the probability of you losing is because there are a lot of people. So what these people do is they program their equipment in probability terms, where they say, okay, let's give a chance to, let's say, 10 million, so that so they'll say, we are going to give the winner 20 million watch. But the probability of you winning is you have been given equal chance of winning among 10 million people. There's a difference when probability is maybe 2, where 2 people have to compete for 10 million, isn't it? The probability there is very high, because you know that if he doesn't win, then I win. Or if there are 3 people, you know, I'm competing with 3 people, chances of me winning are very high, because I'm competing with 3, 5, 10, 20. The probability becomes high. But with these gambling companies, probability kama as many as thousands of people, so that the chances are, that's why every now and then you say a Malawian has won 10 million or 20 million or 50 million. It's once in a while, because they're competing with many other people. So in research also, when it comes to sampling, you need to explain that how did you identify these people who you are working on? Did you just wait and say, I will interview? Yes, there's also that kind of, it's called random sample. Right? Random is where you simply go, the agenda, you just speak from all over. Right? And there are many other kinds of sampling which I'm very sure you're going to appreciate. Here they are giving checklist of research protocols. When you are researching, first thing is to know the name of the person or the organization that did the research, what was the date on which it was done, for whom, why, and rather, it was done for whom and why. You need to know this question. Secondly, if a sample was used, what steps were taken to ensure randomness? You know what a sample is, isn't it? If you want to research on something on the students of university, you may not reach out to each and every student. You just take a group of students that have similar characteristics with the general student. Yes. That is the summary. Right? What steps were taken to validate the question before they were asked of response? There is also a component of validation. You'll be told that as you are planning for your research, you draft questionnaire, and those questionnaires, before you take them up to your respondents, they need to be validated. Okay? So here, as a checklist for research protocols, you need to find out what steps were taken to validate the questions before they were asked of respondents. Fourthly, what steps were taken to ensure the reliability of the research method? There are several methods of research and with different degrees of reliability. So here you need, as a checklist, to ensure or to establish what steps were taken so that you ensure the reliability of the research method. 5. Is a copy of the questionnaire included in the research report? After you have done everything, then you will be required to write a report. So, sometimes people are encouraged to include as a, what do you call it? As you attach it as an exhibit, but it has a name. What's the name? Okay, I may remember as the. Then 6, how will this material help you or your organization to make a decision? That is a checklist. You will learn these things in detail as you start research methods. This is also important, verification, right? You have gathered information. You remember you need to be factual. Research is fact-finding or gathering information. So you need to verify that. So after or when you put information together from all your sources, you want to cross-check your sources. Check primary sources against each other. If you find areas of conflict, for example, look for more primary sources so that the weight of information will clearly support your conclusion. Verification. Then there is communication audit. Communication audit, some will call it customer satisfaction study. This is where you want to establish, right? Or you want to examine how well information flow from one place to the other in the organization, and sometimes to external public. Has been done, including verifying the credibility of sources. This is part of what is called communication audit. In other circles, they call it customer satisfaction study, where you want to see if the communication was really reached out to the right audience in the right packaging as you had intended. Now here is very an interesting thing. Research involves digging, isn't it?
Digging.
Yes. You are digging to find information. Right? It involves thinking. It involves verification of facts. It involves analyzing of facts. Digging is where you're getting the information. Right? So you verify that, you analyze that. So it is the act of deciding between what are called the probable and the improbable. Zoteta is also right? But also, it is an act of deciding between the true and the false. Right? The likely and the doubtful. Right? You also decide the acceptable and the unacceptable. In short, the right and the wrong. So, you see that these are vital decisions in any PR situation as you are writing. Is this right? Is this wrong? Right? All these will call for sustaining reasoning, a dedication to knowing the truth and the determination to be satisfied with nothing less. And all that is called skepticism. Ever heard somebody say, no, I'm skeptical of this? Right? You believe, but you are not truly satisfied. Okay? Because what prompts you to be skeptical? Because you have got sustained reasoning. You have a dedication to know the truth. You have the determination to be satisfied with nothing less. That is called skepticism. And it is a very important or a requisite for all research. You need to be skeptical. How do you achieve skepticism? You ask questions. If somebody tells you, say, show me evidence. That's being skeptical, isn't it? No, I don't want to take chances. Show me evidence. So how do you achieve skepticism as a requisite for all research? One is to ask questions. Right? Answer prompt questions. Here they say that when you begin researching secondary and primary sources, you discover that answers to your questions suggest more questions. I had a conference yesterday. Some lady was asked a question. As she was answering, she created even more questions. So these questions become an agenda of further research. This should not distract you. Okay? So here they are saying, if you expect to make it in public relation, you, Jimmy, if your goal is to do PR, you need to dedicate yourself to being a good researcher who is always pursuing new questions. Then there is the planning process. Because of time, maybe let me just, I think we have got a minute. Let me just summarize what we have so far. We are saying, in conclusion, computer accessible data is easier to use, but can be less reliable depending on its origin. Public relation planning generally succeeds in different proportion to the quality of the information on which it is building. Your planning will depend on the quality of the information which you have. We have also learned that research is vital to the public relation writer. You rely on research. Research is basically fact-finding or information gathering. My money. That's all I'm talking about. In one process. Panagya. Kuibe mwingine. Aiki. That's a nice. Although for some volume by it and but we got what in our idea assigning a gap for the government BP. Community indicated the government base. Yeah, I think we are going to do that. Thank you. When I want to buy a director. I go with the rose up with. It's fine. So it's fine. This is fine. Yeah, Mama will yoga. Okay. No, it's fine. It is as I said, because they are already aware of formality. So what I'll do, because I'm going to go near principal office and I will sign it. Then leave party whoever is there, which is Monday, one as I want it, then it's actually what it is. For Monday, we'll do that kind of because first activity we have next week. What is never going to be done? And for